Today, we are cracking open one of the most important documents in recent tech history, the Ethereum Whitepaper. We're going to break down the radical idea it put forward, not just a new kind of digital money, but a blueprint for a global world computer that anyone, and I mean anyone, can build on top of.
So here's our roadmap. We're going to start with Bitcoin's big breakthrough and where it hit its limits. Then we'll see how Ethereum was built to just smash through those walls, how the whole thing is powered. And finally, we'll get to the really cool stuff, the kinds of applications it unleashed. Okay, before we go any further, let's do a super quick refresh on the core tech here. Everything we're talking about is built on a blockchain. Just think of it like a digital book of records, but instead of one copy, it's shared across thousands of computers. Every new entry is locked to the last one, creating a chain that's pretty much impossible to tamper with. It's a shared source of truth that nobody owns. All right, here is the single best way to think about this. Bitcoin is like a pocket calculator. It's a fantastic invention, and it does one thing: decentralized digital cash, absolutely perfectly. Ethereum, though. Ethereum is like a smartphone. It's not just one tool. It's a wide-open platform where developers can build literally any app they can think of. That's the key difference. So let's start with that calculator, because to really get why Ethereum is such a big deal, you have to appreciate the genius of what Bitcoin accomplished first. You see, while everyone was focused on the idea of digital money, the real magic trick was something called decentralized consensus. For the very first time in history, you could get a global network of complete strangers to agree on a single set of facts, a shared history, without needing a bank, a government, or any trusted middleman. That was the revolution.
Under the hood, Bitcoin works as a state transition system. That sounds super technical, but it's really simple. The state is just the ledger of who owns what right now. A transaction comes in, like a payment, and it updates the ledger to a new state. That's it. It's the basic logic behind any accounting book.
So how do you keep this system honest? Well, Bitcoin uses something called proof of work. Miners all over the world are competing to solve this incredibly difficult math problem. Whoever solves it first gets to add the next block of transactions to the chain. The key is, solving that puzzle costs real-world money in electricity and computing power. This creates a massive economic wall that makes it ridiculously expensive to try and cheat. You'd literally need more computing power than everyone else on the network, combined. It's an ironclad system for its specific purpose. But that purpose was a bit narrow.
So yeah, Bitcoin was brilliant, but it was also very rigid by design. And pretty soon, developers who wanted to build new things started hitting a wall, a big one.
People naturally started asking this question. I mean, if we can decentralize money, why can't we decentralize a stock market or a social network or, well, anything? It turns out the answer was baked right into Bitcoin's own programming language. Bitcoin's code basically had 4 big roadblocks. First, it couldn't do loops, a really basic function that's essential for almost any complex program. Second, the code was value blind. It couldn't even see how much money was being sent in a transaction, which makes creating any kind of nuanced contract a non-starter. Third, it had no memory. Each transaction was a one-off event. And finally, it was blockchain blind. The code couldn't access simple data from its own blockchain, like what time it was. All these things together meant building anything more complex than a basic payment was pretty much impossible. And this is where a young developer named Vitalik Buterin saw a massive opportunity. He imagined a totally new blockchain, one designed from day one to be a fully programmable world computer. This one line from the white paper is everything. The key phrase is Turing complete. It's a fancy term that just means the language is powerful enough to run any program you can logically design. By building this kind of language right into the blockchain, Ethereum wasn't just a single-purpose tool anymore. It was a platform where you could build anything. And that brings us to the fundamental building block of Ethereum, the smart contract. The white paper calls them autonomous agents, which is a cool way of putting it. The vending machine analogy is perfect. You meet a condition, putting a coin in, and an outcome is automatically executed. You get a soda. There's no cashier, no middleman. The rules are just code, and that code runs exactly as written, guaranteed by the blockchain. Now, to make all this work, Ethereum also needed a different way of keeping track of money. Instead of Bitcoin's system, which is a little clunky, Ethereum just uses a simple system of accounts, a lot like your bank account. You have regular accounts that you control with your password or private key, and then you have these new, powerful contract accounts that are controlled entirely by their own code. This makes it way easier for apps to hold and manage money on their own.
Okay, so you've just invented a world computer that can run any program anyone writes. That is awesome, but it also creates a terrifying problem. What stops someone from writing a program that just runs forever and grinds the entire global network to a halt?
This is a classic computer science problem called the halting problem. And if you can't know for sure if a program will ever stop, how can you possibly let strangers run code on your machine? Well, Ethereum's solution to this is just beautiful.
They called it gas. You can think of it just like fuel for your car. To get a program to run, you first have to attach some gas to it. Then every single step of the calculation, no matter how tiny, eats up a little bit of that gas. If your program runs out of gas before it's finished, it just stops. Everything it did gets reversed, but you still paid the fee. It's a brilliant way to make sure that every single operation on the network has a cost, which neatly prevents anyone from spamming the system or running infinite loops. So we have the world computer, we have the fuel to run it. Now we get to the really exciting part. What can you actually build with this thing?
The white paper laid out this incredible vision for what was possible, and it grouped the potential applications into 3 big categories, showing that from the very beginning, the goal was to go way beyond just money. First up, the obvious one, financial apps. This is the world we now call DeFi, or decentralized finance. Suddenly, with just a bit of code, anyone could create their own token to represent pretty much anything. A share in a company, a piece of art, you name it. You could build complex financial products that execute automatically based on real-world events.
Then, things get a little weirder with semi-financial apps. The biggest idea here was the DAO, the Decentralized Autonomous Organization. Think of a company with no CEO, no board, no management. Instead, all the rules are written in code, and all the decisions are made by members voting with their tokens on the blockchain. It's a whole new way for people to organize.
And finally, we get to the non-financial stuff. And this is where the vision gets really huge. We're talking about things like decentralized identity systems, where you control your own data, not some giant company. You could build totally transparent and secure voting systems, or even decentralized cloud storage. The list just goes on and on.
So if there's one thing to take away from all this, it's that Ethereum was never meant to be a single finished product. It was designed to be a base layer, like the fundamental protocols that run the internet itself. It's a neutral, open platform that anyone can build on top of, a foundation for a whole new generation of the web.
The white paper really leaves us with this one powerful, open-ended question. For most of history, the rules for how our society works, rules about money, property, how we organize ourselves, have been written by a small group of people. Ethereum created a world where anyone can write new rules in code. And the question of what people will build with that power, well, we're still just beginning to find out the answer.